Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from Elvis Costello and through his song Oliver's Army. We looked at the nature of conflict and the take of that song on it. So I trust you found that one encouragement. Well, we're going to a cultural phenomenon today. There's nothing less that we can say about this guy today. In fact, Robert Gustigo, music journalist, said this about him. I know he invented rock and roll in a manner of speaking, but that's not why he is worshipped as a god today. He's worshipped as a god today because he was the greatest ballad singer this side of Frank Sinatra, because the spiritual translation and reined-in gut sexuality of its slow weeper and tasty soap blues still activates the hormones and lavish devotion worldwide. Now you know where I'm going here, but we'll say the name in a minute. The story started on the 8th of January 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi. He was one of two identical twins, interestingly, but his school life was very much defined as him being a bit of a loner and didn't really get on with other kids that well. And in 1948, the family moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and from that point onwards, the rest was history. Of course, we are talking about the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. And because of that, because of the iconicness of this guy, and we're going to give him a couple of videos. We'll talk more about his music today, and next time we'll talk about his legacy and his accolades, because there are a few of those. In 1953, he recorded Mr. Happiness with a couple of other blokes, but it wasn't until 1956 when his first single, Heartbreak Hotel, was released, and that went to #1 in the US straight away. And that matched with his energised interpretations, his provocative and sensual performances, his incredible singing voice. We can't understate how good his singing voice is. And this shaking leg, which apparently he found by accident, but when he did it for the first time, the crowd just went wild and he just kept doing it. So he had instant appeal with the world. And of course, Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock came out in 1954. And so this was very much rock and roll in its start. And this was very much Elvis Presley capitalising on this new movement that had taken over the world, because Bill Haley certainly brought that in. I suppose Elvis Presley aimed a little bit more to connect with his audience and to really give his audience a great time, because it wasn't just the Elvis Presley performance, it was the Elvis Presley experience. Between 1956 and 1977, there were 23 studio albums, 8 live albums, 13 compilation albums, 29 EPs. What is it about EPs? Everyone brings out EPs. 18 soundtrack albums, 30 box sets, and 117 singles. It's estimated Elvis Presley has sold 500 million albums worldwide. The Beatles sold 600 million, so he is getting up as one of the highest of all time. Of course, Elvis Presley had the charisma, the charm, and the look about him as well, the youthful look, which was just so captivating. And certainly between 1956 and 1972, there was also 33 movies. Sometimes there were 2 movies a year. Elvis Presley certainly was a busy person with his recording, also his movies, and just everything that he was doing, that he was certainly hitting the ground running and giving the world all that he possibly could. There was also some various TV performances that he was in as well. Now, when you think about genre, he covered all sorts: pop, country, rhythm and blues, gospel, rockabilly, and also the iconic epic, standards that were out there as well. Songs like You'll Never Walk Alone and a few others like that one. And but Elvis Presley transcended genre. Elvis Presley was and still is a genre. That is for sure. He's a guy that's always going to be remembered, and as that guy said before, still worshipped as a god even today. It was around 1958, interestingly, that Elvis was conscripted into military service, which happened back then. And of course, that was a bit of an event for the army. He thought, well, we've got Elvis Presley in the army. That's pretty cool. But a bit of a sadness for the fans, because thinking, whoa, what do you mean? Elvis doesn't need to, do that, does he? But I think Elvis, being the guy that he was, kind of said, yeah, okay, let's do the military service thing. And he did that for a few years. Now, the world paused on the 16th of August 1977, when only at the age of 42 years old. I think the fame and the speed of fame and all the rest of it finally caught up with Elvis Presley, and he died in 1977. The world kind of paused that day, and the saying, Elvis has left the building. It's one of those things that every time you think about that, you think of Elvis Presley. He just had that way about him. So when I was looking at the clips today for Elvis Presley, there's just so many you could look at here. I thought, well, there's just so many songs you could go to. And I thought, well, what am I going to do here? So I thought, let's go back to 4 songs from his earlier days. We'll look at his later days tomorrow. And I thought, you got to go, you ain't nothing like a hound dog. This is a live performance from 1956 from the Ed Sullivan Show, because Ed Sullivan was pretty cool at bringing people to fame. He gave the Beatles a bit of a go, and he's given lots of people a bit of a go. Of course, he gave Elvis Presley a bit of a go as well. We then got Don't Be Cruel. This was covered by Cheap Trick in the 1980s/90s. Well, Elvis Presley brought this song out first. And this is live also from 1956, I think, also the Ed Sullivan Show. Then there was a bit of a gap. Obviously, Elvis Presley did go into national service, and there was he had to do a bit of a comeback. This was the amazing thing about Elvis Presley. He was a master of comeback, and he came back a few times and just reinstated himself in the world and in the consciousness of his adoring public. So in 1968, we got the comeback tour with Jailhouse Rock. Of course, the Blues Brothers covered this song in their first movie, and when they were all in jail at the end, this is a song that they sang. Elvis Presley was the one that came out with this one. Of course, a lot of Elvis's songs were based on the 12-bar blues guitar riff, and Bill Haley certainly did that with Rock Around the Clock, but Elvis Presley very much also had songs with this particular riff in it. Jailhouse Rock is a classic Elvis Presley. And again, you just see, just how captivating he is. When you look at these clips and you realise he's no longer around, you just feel a little bit sad. And what a character he was, and what a massive difference he made in the world. And so here we have him in clips here for the world to see, which is fantastic. And then we talked about his movies as well, and I found a bit of a clip from the movie Loving You from 1957, and this is a song where Elvis Presley, you show him in his acting chops here. He had a bit of a stage presence about him. He could kind of act pretty well. Obviously, the movies are always around, the fact that he was a bit of a performer and a singer, and that will get in there at some point. But, and this is a really good clip, this one, because, Johnny Rivers as the character is here. He just wants to be left alone and have a bit of a cuppa, really. But this bully demands for him to sing, and sing he does. So this is one of the iconic Elvis Presley movie moments right here. So the links to those 4 clips are in the description below. And I've also included my last video from Elvis Costello. So if you want to recap on him, feel free. Well, if you've come back for another video, if this is your first time, the Life Reflections through Music, welcome to everybody. As we've looked at this absolute cultural icon that is Elvis Presley. We're going to continue his story next time. We're going to get a little bit more of his accolades and his legacy. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.